In this video, we're going to be working on lessons 37, part of lesson 38, and 39. We're going to combine them because lessons 37 and 38 have to do with adding and subtracting decimal numbers, and it pretty much all ties in together. And lesson 39 is multiplying decimal numbers, which I just thought it would be easiest if we put it all together and did it at once. Okay. So let's start with some addition. The rainfall over a three-day period was 3 4/10 inches, 26 hundredths inches, and 3/10 inches. Altogether, how many inches of rain fell during the 3 days? Whether we're adding or subtracting decimal numbers, we're going to line up our decimal points. Okay? We don't need to line up the numbers, we need to line up the decimal points. So I'll start with 3 4/10. Okay, 26 hundredths here goes there, and 3/10, my decimal point. Okay, I'm going to add them up. Notice how my decimal points are all lined up here. Okay. Now, this 6 right here is kind of hanging out there by itself. I'm going to fill these in with zeros, just fill in those spots so every number has the same amount of digits all the way down. So 0 plus 6 plus 0 is 6, 4 plus 2 is 6, plus 3 is 9. Since my decimal points are lined up here, my decimal point drops straight down here. And then it's a word problem, so I need a label. And at 3 96 hundredths inches. So just remember to line up your decimal points when you are adding decimals. Paper used in school is often 11 inches long and 8 5/10 inches wide. Find the perimeter of a sheet of paper by adding the lengths of 4 sides. So if I have a piece of paper, say like that, and this side's 11 inches long, and this side's 8 5/10 inches long. Well, I know opposite sides of a rectangle are the same, so I can do this. Okay, so I have 11. Now, the decimal point on this 11, it's after the 11, so it's right here. I'm going to put it there just so I know and I make sure to line up my decimal points. Okay, so I have 11, my 8 5/10, 11, and 8 5/10. Now, I'm going to fill in zeros just so all my numbers have the same amount of digits. So here I need a 0 here. This one I'm going to put a 0 there. Now all of them have 3 digits. My decimal points are lined up. Now let's add. Okay. So you get 0 plus 5 plus 0 plus 5 is going to be 10. Okay. Bring my decimal point down. I have 2, 10, 11, 19, 2, 3. Now I have 39.0. We should know that we don't really need this 0.0 here. So I'm just going to drop it in my answer. So I get 39 inches. Now if you had 39 and 0/10 inches, it would be fine. It's the same thing. Like I said earlier in the year, pretty soon we're going to get to the point where you can't have that extra 0 because we're going to talk about that, how we don't need those extra zeros. Okay, so try to drop it if you remember. If you don't, that's fine for now. So my answer would be 39 inches. A gallon is about 3 7/8 liters. If Margaret pours 2 3/10 liters of milk from a 1 gallon bottle, how much milk remains in the bottle? So the whole gallon is my 3 7/8. I'm going to pour out 2 3/10. Okay. Notice my decimal points are lined up. I added an extra 0 so all my numbers have the same amount of digits. It makes it easier to subtract. Okay? Addition, subtraction, I'm going to line up my decimal points. So now 8 minus 0 is 8, 7 minus 3 is 4. Your decimal point comes down. So it's 1. And my label is liters, so 1 48 liters. Subtract. 12 and 75 hundredths minus 5. Remember I said, when we have that whole number, there's no decimal point. There really is. It's after the number. We don't do it when we have the number like this up here. But when we want to do some math, we got to put it in there so we make sure to line up our decimal points. Fill in with zeros there, and fill in there. Okay, I need to borrow there. So we get 7. And the answer would be 7 and 75 hundredths. So when we're adding and subtracting, line up the decimal points. Decimal point goes straight down. Remember, fill in zeros so that all your numbers have the same amount of digits. It will make your life easier when adding or subtracting. Now, when we multiply it, we're not going to align the decimal points. We're going to multiply and then count the decimal places. So how many numbers come after the decimal point total? So here I just have a couple different ways that we can multiply some decimal numbers. Okay, we might see it where we have a rectangle, we need to multiply them. Okay, so we can either multiply the decimals. We could put them into fractions. So we have our 75 hundredths times 5 tenths. And we could do that. Or we could do it this way, which is what the lesson is on. Okay, so all they did was they did 5 times 5. It's 25, 2 goes up here, 35, 36, 37. Okay, and then there's 2 numbers behind the decimal point here, 1 number here, so the decimal point goes 1, 2, 3. Okay, we'll do some more examples so you get the hang of it. So it says multiply 25 hundredths times 7 tenths. Notice my decimal points are not lined up. I do not need to have them lined up. 7 times 5 is 35. 7 times 2, 14. 6, 17. The rest are zeros, so I'm going to put that 17 there. Okay. Now, there's 2 numbers behind the decimal point here. 1, 2. And there's 1 here behind the decimal point. So altogether I have 3. So I'm going to take my decimal point and go 1, 2, 3. It's going to go right there. Okay. I'm going to put a 0 in front of that decimal point just to hold the place value of the whole number. Okay, so my answer is 175 thousandths. Another example. 2 and 5 tenths times 2 and 5 tenths. We got 25, 10, 11, 12. Okay, put my 0 because I'm moving over a place value. 2 times 5 is 10. 4, 5. Okay, add them up. 5, 2. Now, how many numbers do I have behind decimal points in my actual problem? I have 1 here, and I have 1 here. So altogether I have 2. So I'm going to take my decimal point and go over 2 spots. That's where my decimal point's going to go. So my answer is going to be 6 and 25 hundredths. Now, since there's a couple lessons, we're going to do the practice sets for lesson 37 and lesson 39. So this is lesson 37 practice set. If you're planning on using your book. And this is the lesson set for lesson 39, or the practice set for lesson 39. Make sure you do both of them. Bring any questions you have to class.